The Internet of Frames is a concept from Quantel that is behind the new innovation in its products. So what is the Internet of Frames and what does it mean for your business? So let's start with an analogy. It is the words of a book that are its content. Those words are organized into paragraphs, those paragraphs into chapters. Those chapters are published in books, and those books are put onto shelves, maybe in a library as is shown here. The thing that happens when we publish words in a book is that the identity of that content becomes the identity of that book. But what happens if we have an anthology of works of an author? Is the identity of the content the identity of the book, the original book, or of the anthology? The same for a collected set of works of a newspaper columnist. Is it the original newspaper that was published, or is it the content of the book that is a collection of the author's writings? Also, if we want to find that content, or if we have references between books, we need to search. And to search, traditionally, in a library, we needed catalogues, and those catalogues had to be organized by experts. But there are some problems with this traditional model. The identity of the book is brittle, as I've explained. It's similar to I am Richard in I'm not Richard in Newbury wearing a black shirt, or Richard in Scotland wearing a green shirt. My identity is just Richard. Books had a fixed location on a shelf in a library or in a bookshop, and we had to go to that physical location to access the content. And when books had references between one another, you had to actually open up the book to find out about those links between the content. And if the book gets lost, or if the book happened to be checked out of the library, you couldn't actually follow the complete tree of references and links. We did the same thing with our media content. We have frames that are collected into clips. The clips are edited into programs. The programs were written onto tapes. The tapes were put onto shelves. The genealogy of the program is often lost at the point that it's written onto a tape. If you use the same clip in two programs, how do you know that? To find that out, you needed references, search, catalogues, and experts, just like you do with the books. When we move to file-based workflows, the frames and clips are still in programs. The programs were put onto files, where the files were a direct one-to-one replacement for the tapes, and the tapes became files. The files are put onto servers. You still have exactly the same problem of brittle identity, fixed location, and opaque links. For example, the file would be called c:\media/london/12345.mxf. It's in a fixed location on a particular server. You have to be a particular kind of MXF decoder to be able to open that file and find out what it references and what's it made out of. But there's a technology that we use every day that works in a different way. It's the World Wide Web, the Internet. And if we create an Internet of Frames where every frame is given a non-brittle identity, we can exploit the Internet. Just like we use a search engine to find content, and we don't know which server in the world that content is located on, we can apply the same concepts to our media information, our digital media information. And we can use the links, the hyperlinks that people make about that information, and search engine technology to organize our content. It is the users organizing the content, not the experts. Digital information is without material constraints of buildings or formats, shelves, experts, hierarchies. It is information that is accessible through search. The Internet of Frames concept is Quantel's exploitation of the Internet to do media production using 5 key kinds of relationships. These are sequential relationships, the order in which our frames play; synchronization relationships, which might be the synchronization of video and audio content, the left eye, right eye of stereo material, or multiple cameras at a sports event. We also have resolution relationships, whereby a 4K picture might also be coded as an HD picture, which might also be available in a browse format. It's the same picture, it's just that it's at a different resolution or using a different codec, and we represent that relationship within our systems. We have descriptive relationships, describing individual moments in time or the complete program that we have, and those relationships we need to represent so we can find our content using text search engines. And we have creative relationships, building timelines and playlists from existing material to make new material. These 5 key relationships are what make up the Internet of Frames. And in the Internet of Frames, all relationships share a consistent model. We use names, non-brittle names, and references, or in Internet terminology, paths and hyperlinks. We know that the Internet empowers people because it gives access to data without them having to have knowledge of where it's stored or in what format it is in. And it allows people to make new links and relationships. These might be hyperlinks in documents, Twitter tags, Facebook likes, TripAdvisor ratings. They're all kinds of links and relationships. And once something has been given a name, anyone can make reference to it for any purpose. Maybe for a rights management system. It doesn't have to be part of the core Quantel system, but the identities are non-brittle and available for systems that are external. What we have to be careful of, though, is that we don't start using names that put the location or form back. So we mustn't end up using file system paths or reinventing shelves of a library. So what does this concept mean for your business? Well, we can enable all aspects of workflow today using the Internet of Frames. To grab new material from feeds, cameras and tapes, to create using editors or color grading or transforming using transcoders. We can start to explore big data technologies for storage in data centers and using that technology for backup and archive and exploiting cloud. The Internet of Frames enables a change in the way that we will watch our content through IP delivery, creating thousands of versions for different territories, even millions of versions tailored to each individual, and we can distribute the content using today's CDN technology. At the same time, we can bring the existing world, the SDI world, the ISA SQ technology into the Internet of Frames. It's compatible. So let's go through each of these areas in turn. The Internet of Frames will enable us to capture streams, but digital streams that are coming from local sources, from studio cameras, or maybe RTP streams. And as we're capturing those streams using stream-based workflows, we can have a local view of the ingest as it's happening and start to store onto local storage. But at the same time, by policy, we can be copying those streams to other sites to immediately start making the disaster recovery. And we can provide access to those streams as they're arriving globally using the Internet. If we have taken a camera out in the field, file-based camera for example, we also have the opportunity to access that content very quickly. Let's say that a journalist takes their camera and connects it to a laptop in their hotel bedroom over Wi-Fi. By running the Internet of Frames, by running the web server on the laptop itself, we can immediately allow people around the world random access view to that content at the bit rate, using smooth streaming technology at the bit rate that is suitable to them. And whilst the journalist is sleeping, we can be uploading the high bitrate material to the remote server, ready for further editing or backup. The Internet of Frames will change the way that we can create our content. We can build timelines from across the world, cloud stores across the world, and we can start using QVFS technology to integrate with different editors. Different editors can start to pull in content. They don't need to know what form that it's in or where it is, build it onto a timeline and publish back. We can also set up filters for content anywhere in the world, so we can transform using stream-based transformers and do transcoding using streams. And obviously all Quantel editors will be supported in this new environment. We can change the way that we store our content. We can build big international networks of federated content stores using a DNS for frames. Eventually, consistent database technology allows us to make archives wherever they are in the world appear as if they're in the same place. Let me give an analogy. If I ring my mobile phone, if somebody rings my mobile phone, the person who's ringing me doesn't know whether I'm in London, in Scotland, or in Las Vegas. It's the mobile phone network who takes care of locating the mobile phone wherever it is in the world. The Internet of Frames, using DNS-style technology, will enable us to find our content wherever it is in the world. It could be on a cloud store, it could be on a GPFS disk cluster, it could be on a SAN, on a high-speed editor, or it could be on an existing tape archive, and we can write a driver to expose that content into the Internet of Frames. Using this DNS for frames, we can have efficient frame-aware replication of our content in data centers across the world. The Internet of Frames enables us to change the way that we watch our content. We could actually deliver fragments of content directly into a set-top box to offer tailored content on demand. This provides new means of monetizing the content that we have. It also allows us to do versioning without having to ingest complete versions of a program into an editor just to add a single language track or an additional set of captions. we can start to do streaming delivery, and we can actually make the Internet of Frames part of a CDN. So a football match is going on, a soccer match, and we don't have to wait until that match is completed before we do a transcode, before we then enable people to access that. We can actually stream through transcoders and make it available much earlier, both live and catch-up. And finally, because it's the internet, we can use it wherever else we might use the internet. So we can start to take our content wherever we are with us. On our mobile phone, on our iPad, we can take whatever we've been working on home. The barriers of buildings are broken down. We can go to the coffee shop. We can chat and talk about it. We can enable people across the other side of the world to do logging. We can start using it as part of WebExes. We can build storyboards, do rough cuts, and we can build packages of content that we can influence our managers with. All of these things are possible just like any other part of the internet, like we might use Dropbox, for example. So Quantel's Revolution Q and QTube are enablers for the Internet of Frames. And within those products, it's the relationships that are key. The production process is adding value by creating new relationships. And that is what Revolution Q and QTube allow you to do. If you want a more generic explanation of how this fits in with the information revolution, there's a great presentation called Digital Information Without Material Constraint by Michael Wescher, and the YouTube link is on the slide. Paths and hyperlinks, the Internet of Frames, empower people by removing the boundaries and costs of buildings, file systems, hierarchies, shelves, and experts. The Internet of Frames will change the way that you grab, create, talk about, store, and watch content, and the way that you pay to do that, moving from capital expenditure to operational expenditure, service-provided cost models. Thank you.